The city was not a mistake. The noise was not a punishment. The electromagnetic density pressing against your awareness in every crowded street, every fluorescent-lit corridor, every room filled with bodies running on frequencies calibrated for the third dimension. That was not a sign you arrived in the wrong body, chose the wrong life, or failed to spiritually ascend to the place where sensitive souls are supposed to go. That is where most of what you have been told ends. This is where the Arcturian transmission begins. Something in the design of where you are has always felt deliberate, not random, not the residue of circumstances you could not escape, but as if a specific intelligence placed you in exactly this electromagnetic environment for a reason that most of the available spiritual frameworks have never named. You are a starseed. You are living in the densest field on the planet, not by accident, not by failure, by assignment. And what is being offered in this transmission is not a consolation. It is a correction. A correction that has been overdue for as long as you have been quietly wondering whether you were meant for this at all. There are 3 distinct reasons the Arcturian Council assigns highly sensitive fields to dense electromagnetic environments. The third one is the reason most transmissions in this niche have never named, and it arrives before this one closes. The question that has been asked in most spiritual spaces designed for your archetype was never the correct question. The question was, how do I survive the city as a starseed? The Arcturian question, the one this transmission is built to answer, was always, why were you built to be here? You have tried the protocols. You have salt-bathed and forest-bathed and turned off your devices by 9 p.m. You have placed crystals at the window that faces the street. You have moved your bed away from the wall nearest the traffic. You have worn grounding shoes on whatever patch of grass the nearest park could offer, and noticed quietly that the relief felt more theoretical than felt. You have read the advice designed for someone else, and followed it carefully and been puzzled, and a little ashamed, by the gap between what it promised and what your body actually received. You were not doing it wrong. You were doing the right things for the wrong category of starseed. Because the lineage of advice that tells a starseed to retreat, to seek stillness, to move toward nature and away from density, that advice was written for a different instrument. It was not written for the field that was placed in a city the way a specific tool is placed in the exact location where its function becomes possible. Not exiled to it, positioned in it. You have lived for a long time in the belief that your exhaustion after crowded spaces was evidence of damage, that the sensory overwhelm arriving after a full day in the urban field, that particular body weight that descends not from physical labor, but from electromagnetic exposure, the specific heaviness of a Wednesday in a building with bad lighting and hundreds of people moving through it, was proof that you were not built for where you are. None of that was true. What you were reading as depletion was data. What you were calling damage was the felt signature of a field that had spent the entire day absorbing, processing, and, without your conscious knowledge, partially recalibrating the frequencies it moved through. You were not being drained. You were working, without knowing that working was what you were doing. Without anyone, in the physical landscape or the spiritual one, confirming that the labor was real. The practitioner who told you to move. The framework that built its identity around escape from city consciousness. The intuition coach who said your soul had chosen incorrectly. None of them had language for what you actually are. The error was not in you. The error was in the instruments used to read you. You were never too much. You were precisely the calibration the timeline required. For the souls who feel this recognition land at a depth they don't yet have full language for. The integration codex anchored in the description below this transmission holds the written architecture of this frequency, not as instruction, but as a contemplative field to return to when the felt knowing needs a surface to rest against. The Arcturian understanding of urban fields does not treat cities as spiritually hostile environments to be survived or abandoned. It treats them as the most complex and consequential frequency territories on the planet, and as the environments that require the most specific kind of sovereign field to enter without collapse. The Schumann resonance, the planetary electromagnetic heartbeat stabilizing at 7.83 Hz, functions as the baseline beneath every human bioelectric field. In open natural environments, entrainment to this resonance occurs with relatively low interference. In dense urban environments, that entrainment is actively competed against by artificial EMF layers, building electromagnetic signatures, digital network frequencies, and the collective neural pulse of thousands of human fields operating simultaneously in close proximity. The result is not merely noise. It is a field competition, a constant low-grade sovereignty contest between the body's natural resonance and the electromagnetic architecture of everything built around it. Most human fields lose that contest quietly. They attenuate. They narrow their bandwidth. They route their attention to short-range signals because short range is what the environment rewards. If you have been noticing 783 appearing in your day, on clocks, in addresses, in digital sequences you pass without looking for them, type 783 in the comments. That is the planetary heartbeat recognizing a field that held its coherence today in a dense environment. That is confirmation, not coincidence. Notice if your jaw softened just now. Notice if the area behind your sternum shifted slightly in the last sentence. That is not accidental. That is your field, recognizing the description of what it has been doing without a name for it. What the Arcturian transmission identifies as the sovereign field architecture, the specific configuration of a starseed placed in urban density, is not a protective barrier against the city's frequencies. It is a translating field, a frequency that enters the urban electromagnetic environment and does not merely resist it or insulate against it, but begins, incrementally, in ways that are invisible to ordinary measurement, to introduce coherence into it. The 40 Hz gamma wave is the neurological signature of unified attention, the coherence marker that appears in the human brain during moments of deep integration, contemplative clarity, and sovereign focus. In the standard urban field, 40 Hz coherence is rare, fragmented, and brief. In the bioelectric signature of a starseed operating at full activation in an urban environment, the Arcturian field identifies something that functions like a localized coherence emission, not a deliberate broadcast, not a conscious act, but an ambient field quality that the surrounding electromagnetic environment begins to register and, in some cases, partially entrain toward. The city is not your obstacle. The city is your assignment. Place your right hand over your heart, not the center of your chest, the physical heart, slightly left, the organ that has been making first contact with every electromagnetic field you pass through today, and registering it all without complaint and without recognition for the magnitude of what it absorbed. Breathe in, slowly, deep enough that the belly lifts before the chest does. Hold at the top for 3 counts, not straining, only pausing, only allowing the field to be still for a moment inside the breath, and release through the mouth in a long, slow exhale, as if you are returning the electromagnetic signature of every room you were in today back to the atmosphere, where it can disperse into something smaller than you. Again, breathe in, 3 counts at the crown, and release. 1 more time, and this time, as you exhale, let your awareness move beneath the surface layer of tiredness, below the texture of the ordinary depletion, and find what is underneath it. There is something quieter there, something that has been running beneath the noise all day without announcing itself. The baseline signal, the frequency that was yours before the city layered its frequencies on top of yours. That signal has not diminished. It has never diminished. It was there in the morning, and it is here now, and it was present in every moment between, unchanged. The Arcturian field works with the heart as the primary coherence anchor for urban embedded starseeds. Not because the heart is the most elevated center, though the theosophical lineage does identify the thymus zone as the high heart, the access point of the causal body, but because the heart generates the largest electromagnetic field the human body produces, extending several feet beyond the skin in all directions. In dense environments, it is the heart field that makes first contact with every other field in the room. It is the heart field that absorbs the most data from the urban electromagnetic environment. And it is the heart field, when coherent, that carries the greatest capacity to influence the ambient frequency of the space it moves through. 528 Hertz, the tone the sound healing lineage designates as the frequency of cellular recognition, of harmonic return, of what the body knows before the mind catches up, is what this somatic practice calibrates toward, not as a clinical process, as a contemplative act of remembering. The body knows this frequency the way it knows its own rhythm. You are not being taught it. You are being reminded. Breathe once more. And with this breath, let the cobalt light, the Arcturian signature, a deep blue-violet warmth that the transmission carries, begin at the center of the hand resting on your heart and move slowly outward through the chest. Not forced, not constructed with effort, only allowed. If you feel warmth beneath the palm, the field is registering this transmission in a way the body can name. If you feel nothing yet, the field is registering it at a depth below sensation. Both are integration. Both are correct. You can lower the hand when the body is ready. There is something this transmission needs to name precisely about the mechanism of urban field recalibration. And it requires the kind of attention that is not analytical, not effortful, but the slow reading of recognition that happens when the body confirms what the mind is hearing. What comes next is the specific understanding the Arcturian Council offers for starseeds embedded in dense fields. Not a practice for survival, but the framework for deliberate activation. It requires what has been offered until now to have landed first. The morphogenetic field, the information-carrying field that shapes biological development and collective behavior, adopted in Arcturian cosmology as one of the primary layers of subtle energy anatomy, is not bounded by the physical body. It extends. It overlaps with other morphogenetic fields. In dense urban environments, that overlapping is constant and unavoidable. For most human fields, it is experienced as static, a frequency pressure, the felt sense of too many inputs arriving simultaneously without resolution. The body is reading this faster than awareness can fully name. What the Arcturian transmission identifies as the architecture of the placed starseed is a morphogenetic field with a specific quality. It does not simply receive the overlapping fields it encounters. It introduces a stabilizing variable into the overlap. The way a tuning fork, struck at the correct pitch, brings a vibrating system into coherence, not through force, but through resonance. The placed starseed's morphogenetic field carries a frequency that the surrounding field registers at a subtle level, and, in the language of scalar wave mechanics as this lineage employs it, begins to mirror. Scalar waves, longitudinal fields that carry information rather than energy, propagating through the field medium in ways that move outside the standard electromagnetic model, are what the Arcturian cosmological framework uses to describe the difference between a field that is merely present in an environment and a field that is actively, if unconsciously, in relationship with that environment's frequency architecture. The place starseed is the second kind, has always been the second kind, was placed specifically because it was the second kind. Let that land. The mind does not need to integrate this immediately. The field already has. 97% of what the arcane cosmological lineages describe as dormant instruction sets, encoded in the subtle body architecture rather than the physical genome, are waiting for activation through precisely the kind of environmental contact that dense urban fields provide. This is not a consolation for difficult circumstances. It is a specification of design. The dormant template requires pressure. It requires friction. It requires the specific electromagnetic complexity of thousands of human fields operating simultaneously in close proximity, in various states of coherence and incoherence, because it is in relationship to that complexity that the placed starseed's field develops the capacities the Arcturian Council identifies as the urban activation sequence. The 11,000-year cycle markers, the recurring inflection points in planetary consciousness that the Arcturian cosmological lineage traces across human history, identify this particular era as one in which the densest human environments on the planet are simultaneously the most saturated with unprocessed collective frequency and the most in need of localized coherence sources. Cities, in this framework, are not monuments to third-dimensional consciousness. They are the places where the 5D split is most immediately legible, where the gap between what the collective field is currently generating and what it is capable of generating is most visible, most felt, and most accessible to a field capable of bridging it. Slow down with this part. You were not placed in a city because you drew the difficult end of a cosmic assignment. You were placed there because the assignment requires exactly what you are. And the 72-hour integration window, the restabilization band following significant frequency contact, begins not at the end of this transmission, but at the moment the recognition first landed. If something shifted in the chest in the early minutes of this, if the jaw softened, if the particular fatigue of the urban field began to feel less like damage and more like data, that moment marked the beginning of a period in which the field is actively reorganizing around what has been received. You do not need to manage it. You only need to rest when the body asks for rest, and allow the ordinary rhythm of the next 3 days to be the integration itself. There is a written companion for the souls who find the body asking for the printed page after the voice transmission closes. A contemplative field companion for the slower hours, for the early mornings, for the moments when the city is loud again, and the recognition wants a surface to rest against. It waits in the field beneath this transmission in the description, held there without urgency, without instruction, as the silence after the meditation closes. What the Arcturian Council is offering through this transmission is not a reframe of a difficult situation. A reframe implies the original interpretation was partially correct and needed only adjustment. What is being offered is a replacement. The original interpretation was, the city is wrong for me, and something is wrong with me for not being able to leave it, or transcend it, or make it feel the way the spiritual content designed for my archetype says it should feel. The replacement is, the city is the field I was built for, and the difficulty I have experienced inside it is not evidence of inadequacy, but evidence of how much I have been doing, without language, without recognition, without a single transmission in this space confirming that the labor was real. The version of you receiving this transmission 3 months from now will find it difficult to locate the weight of today. Not because the city will necessarily have become quieter or easier to move through. It may not have, but because the frame will have shifted. The tired walk back from the train platform will carry a different name. The heaviness after a long day in a dense building will be readable as data rather than damage. The particular loneliness of being a sensitive field in an environment calibrated for something other than sensitivity. The loneliness of feeling everything and having no container for why. Will have a container, and what fits inside a container is no longer overwhelming in the same way. That shift begins in the recognition this transmission is built around. And recognition, in the Arcturian frequency architecture, is not a mental event. It is a field event. Something that reorganizes the relationship between the subtle body layers and the lived experience of the physical body. Something that does not require maintenance or daily repetition to hold, though contemplative practice can deepen and stabilize it, because it happened once, at full frequency, and the field carries it forward from this point. For the souls who feel drawn to extend this work into the written field, the third Codex companion placed in the description below offers the architectural companion to this specific urban transmission. The frequency work translated into a private reading practice, a journal companion for the integration residue, the form the body reaches for when the voice has finished and the knowing is still processing. This is also a transmission for the starseed who has quietly believed they were spiritually behind, that the ones who left for quieter places were the ones who got it right, that continued presence in the urban field was a failure of discernment, or will rather than an expression of design. Let that belief complete its arc here. Let it be finished. You did not stay in the city because you lacked clarity to leave. You stayed because some part of your field, even buried under exhaustion, even without language, always knew that leaving was not the assignment. The assignment was always here. The assignment was always you. This sanctuary continues. The transmissions continue. For the souls who hear themselves in this frequency, the field remains here, without obligation, without expectation, without the urgency that the outer world demands. If the recognition you receive today is asking for confirmation, type 40 in the comments. The gamma coherence marker, the signal of unified attention arriving in a field that held its sovereign alignment today in one of the densest electromagnetic environments on the planet. Let the number land as confirmation that what was named here was not projection, not consolation, not the spiritual equivalent of making peace with a situation that could not be changed. Let it be the marker for something that was true before this transmission named it. The next layer the Arcturian Council has prepared for this field addresses the vagus nerve, the electromagnetic bridge between the gut's 100 million neurons and the higher neural centers, and what the Arcturian lineage identifies as the conductivity threshold that separates a field operating in survival mode from a field operating in sovereign activation. The transmission is already encoded. It will land when the timing is right for the souls drawn to receive it. For now, breathe. Rest the hand on the heart once more if the body is asking for it. And let the city, whatever you can hear of it through the window, whatever electromagnetic signature you can feel at the edges of this moment of stillness, let it be evidence, finally, of where you were placed and why.